Today on Locked On Red Wings, can John Gibson be the solution in net for the Detroit Red Wings?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We're your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts. Today, we are going to continue our player preview series, leading off with John Gibson and whether or not he can be Detroit's answer in net, as we have gone through so many goalies over the past few years. Hopefully, he's the one. Followed by JVR and where exactly we should expect the newcomer to impact this lineup. And then in segment 3, we wrap up with Elmer Soderblom and how many more surprises he might have left for us as Red Wings fans. But before we get to that, I got to let you know this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Scotty, John Gibson was acquired by the Detroit Red Wings after years of speculation and a pretty solid bounce-back year in a backup role. Can we expect Gibson to be Detroit's starter in net in the upcoming season?
Oh, he better be. I think like, you know, we'll talk about maybe what if we're looking for an exact stat line or anything like that. We'll have plenty of those conversations today, obviously, but then, you know, in the preseason and approaching the regular season, and then obviously in the regular season, but they acquired him to be that. They acquired him to be the bell cow for this team. They brought him in not to be the guy that, he's going to be a backup and you hope he gets hot, or like, maybe it's going to be a 50-50 split. No, they brought him in and gave up assets to make him, or to not make him, to use him in a way that is him being the bona fide, 1A goalie on this team. So, yeah, I mean, do we expect it? The only reason he wouldn't is because of injury or performance. If he is healthy and playing well, then yes.
Right. And I mean, if you heard us talk about Cam Talbot, you already kind of know our stance on this, because you can't talk about Cam Talbot without talking about John Gibson, and the reverse is also true. It's just, you traded for this guy who has got 2 years left on his deal at $6.4 million to be the guy. Not the guy in terms of 60 games started or anything like that. Those days are past for most NHL teams. There's very few true starters in the league. But you need him to be a 1A that can take 45 plus games and let you basically take on Cam Talbot's role. Cam Talbot, I believe, started 47 last year.
I'd even go higher. I really do think that they're hoping that this, his game played total starts with a number 5. Whether that's
that would be best case scenario,
or 59, right? That's right. I'm not, but I really do think that in an 82 game season that they're hoping they can get 50 plus out of them.
Yeah, I mean, you gave up Peter Mrazek, so obviously that was somebody you acquired at the deadline, so really not much. You give a second-round pick, too.
Right,
you didn't give up too
terribly.
That's the only thing of real value you gave up in this trade. To make it worth it, John Gibson has to be, serviceable. But we want more than serviceable out of John Gibson. We need more than serviceable out of John Gibson. I'm not saying if the numbers of games started for John Gibson starts with a 5, then he has done a fantastic job. In my opinion, I think that means he's exceeded expectations. If he can get to 45, I think at least at bare minimum, he's been your 1A. As far as save percentage goes, I think that I think it would be silly to think John Gibson in 2025, 2026 can keep up a .912 save percentage across 45 games. Or because the save percentage in the NHL is just not that high anymore. He is not as good as he was in 29 games last year. I don't believe he's going to be that good across 45 games in the year 2025 with the way that goaltending is across the league right now. Goaltending across the board is down. League average was maybe sub 905 last year. I haven't checked on it in a minute, but it was very low. If he can be 45 games of league average goaltending, this will be a win for the Detroit Red Wings. In terms of the solution in net, long term, no. You still want Coaster or Augustine, but can he be the guy this season and then maybe be a mentor for Sebastian Cossa the year after. I think that's what you're expecting and hoping out of him. He had a really good year last year in 29 games played. That's not no sample size. That's a pretty healthy sample size. That is a bona fide 1B, but we need him to be the 1A. His goals saved above expected was a top 20 goalie in the league, I believe. I think it was, let's see here, I have it up. He was, the 21st best goalie in games goals saved above expected, 11.71, which is light years above any of the three goalies that the Red Wings iced last season. But so when it comes to what to expect out of John Gibson, I just, for me, be a serviceable 1A. Be consistent, right? That's another thing you brought up when we talked about Cam Talbot, is not these stretches of really, really, really good hockey and then stretches of not being very good at all. We just need be consistently league average, and the Red Wings will have an opportunity, and then Cam Talbot can come in on a smaller workload and make it work for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and be on the ice, man. Like, again,
right. I don't think the bar is that high.
Right, like, clearly. Like, I think when looking at what we are expecting out of him this year, again, it really does just start and end with being the bell cow. Like, I don't need him to post a top 10 save percentage in the NHL. Like, I don't need him to be one of the, 5 or 8, whatever, best goalies in the league. I need him to play 50 plus games and have a save percentage that starts with the number 9. Like, that is really it. It's not the bar is not sky high. If he can be a league average or slightly above league average goalie and actually be able to consistently play games and not be, I'm, a Vezina candidate for the first 2 months and then get just absolutely ran into the ground and am, 880 or 870 the last 3 months of the season. If he's just consistently solid, then I'm totally cool. Like, I'm fine with that. I just need him to play a majority of the games and be serviceable.
And that's the thing too, is like, obviously he's had a few, barring this last year, which was a very nice bounce back year from him in that 1B role behind Dostal. He's had several rough years, right? A 888 save percentage, an 899 save percentage behind two very bad Ducks teams. I don't think he's that bad. A lot of that has to do with injuries and playing behind a really bad team. I think that he's probably more in line with the goalie we saw the years before that, 903, 904, and then before that he was, that was John Gibson.
Yeah,
that was incredible, John Gibson. If we can get between 905 and 910 in 45 games, like that's at that point, you're the solution. You're the guy for us. That's
right.
Not. It's
the
just
ceiling
like,
is now higher than it has been since what?
Right. Jimmy Howard. I mean, like,
right. I was gonna say since Howard, like.
You look at the goaltending that you've had, and Jonathan Bernier, actually, like, no disrespect to him, he actually had a pretty nice little stint here at the Detroit Red Wings. But
For sure.
How many times have we done the song and dance, right? We did it with Nedeljkovic. We did it with Husso. We did it with Lyon. We did it with Talbot. Like, every single year we bring in a new goalie, and we think this is the guy. But you're right. Out of all of the goalies, this is probably the goalie that has the highest ceiling because he has a track record of getting Vezina votes. Like, this is a guy who has, and it was years ago, it wasn't recent, but if he can give us 50% of prime John Gibson, 920 save percentage John Gibson, 926 save percentage John Gibson, right, we're going to be improved in that position, and that's going to make Cam Talbot's life easier, and he'll be playing better because of that too. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's just the difference between hoping that something happens with a player in terms of their production and just getting a good player.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Take Husso and Nedeljkovic, for example. Those are two guys that we got excited about because they excelled in very sheltered sample sizes.
Yeah.
John Gibson has a long track record. That's why the conversation is a little bit different.
Being good. Right.
Right. Like, and you talk about Nedeljkovic played behind, when he was a Calder finalist, played behind one of the best defensive teams in the league.
That year, maybe the best, yeah.
And in a weird COVID year, too. in a COVID-shortened season, so his sample size was shorter. Same thing with Ville Husso, another defensive stalwart in St. Louis at the time. And he played sheltered minutes. He didn't play well in the playoffs, but we took a flyer on him. So we were banking on that success on teams that sheltered them very well being actually them and not just a result of the team. Now, of course, I do think there was the players, synergized very well with that. The goaltending did, but a lot of it was the teams too. With Gibson, this is a guy who we know has done it, and he was good with some of these bad Ducks teams too. Like, it's not just as soon as the Ducks fell apart, he fell apart. He had several solid years still when the Ducks were bad. It's just these last 2 years. So that's why that's the reason to believe in John Gibson, is that track record of success and knowing he has it in him and he had a nice bounce back year. It's just, can he stay healthy? That's really what it's going to come down to.
I agree.
All right. Segment 2, we're going to talk about JVR, newcomer as well. Stay tuned. Locked On Red Wings. Have you ever decided the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and suddenly you realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, James Van Riemsdyk is new to the Detroit Red Wings. He's, 36 years old. He was the second overall pick in 2007 next to Patrick Kane. Is he the solution on top line left wing, or is he bottom six? What's your expectation with James Van Riemsdyk? Because I think personally when they signed him, I was like, there's your scoring presence on the bottom six. A guy who can get to the net front, a guy who can deflect pucks. In fact, I watched his highlights this last year. I knew he was good at deflecting pucks in front, but almost every single one of his goals was deflecting a puck from out front, which is great, provides that scoring punch. But then I looked at the Red Wings scoring depth and I went, 36-year-old James Van Riemsdyk might be left wing 1. And I went, so your expectations of James Van Riemsdyk with the Detroit Red Wings here?
I mean, honestly, I expect him to I'm hoping that he can be somewhat of a versatile winger in the I don't mean versatile in terms of play style. We know what he is at this point in his career. I just mean in terms of who he's playing with in the lineup card. I really feel like that's a guy in the past we've had. I mean, like Rasmussen was a big one, right? We've had guys where it's like, can really play with everybody. Burt was like that. And obviously, JVR is what he is, especially at this point in his career. I'm not trying to compare them in terms of like production or play style, just from the fact that, I think we will see him on the top line at some point. Do I think it's going to be consistent? Like he's going to play 80 plus games as the top line, left side? No, but I think that it will be maybe matchup based or just ride hot hand in terms of production. I think that, you'll probably see him in that type of role and situation at points throughout the year. But I also think you'll see plenty of him getting a night off for rest on a back-to-back, or he's going to go down and play, third line minutes for a week because they have somebody else up there they like and, whatever. I'm just looking for him to be solid depth scoring. And if that turns into decent point production as a top liner at this point in his career, then so be it. But I am really just looking for him to be that solid depth scoring option that we have really been like begging for 3 years now in free agency and kind of hoping to find.
Yeah, I mean, last year, depth scoring was very poor. The year prior, they found a little bit of a diamond in the rough with Daniel Sprong until he decided. Until he just.
But even then, like they had a lot of depth scoring 2 seasons ago. That was the glass cannon year where they just outscored their problems. It's a year where they desperately need to get some of that point production back, and you're hoping that obviously a guy like this can help do that. Yeah,
and he can. In a bottom 6 role, I like JVR a lot. Like I talked about it when they signed him. Like he's not a needle mover for this team. But you're right. Last season they got no production from the bottom 6. It was all up to the top 2 lines to provide all the scoring for this team. JVR is somebody who, at this point in his career, is still an effective winger in the bottom 6. He was a 75th percentile. He had a 75th percentile offensive rank at even strength. Like, he is still an effective forward in that regard. His defense, nothing to write home about. He's 36 years old. I'm not going to rag on him about that. He was a 66th overall when it comes to his overall percentile at even strength. Like, this is a good forward. He's going to be excellent on the second power play unit as your net front, deflecting those pucks. This is a guy who my expectations are provide that scoring on the bottom 6. But, as you've pointed out, he'll probably get reps on the top line. And I think you were spot on, Scotty, when you said that it's likely going to be whoever the hot hand is. Because the reality is, there is no dead set solution top line left wing. There's still time for them to figure it out, but I'm not putting money on them going out and acquiring somebody. So the fact of the matter is it's probably going to be a turnstile of James Van Riemsdyk, of Jonathan Berggren, Andrew Kopp, JT Comfer, Marco Kasper, Elmer Soderblom, who we'll talk about in segment 3. Little teaser for you. It's going to be these players randomly throughout the season, and they'll stick with whoever's gelling or hot at that moment. So it could be JVR for 15 games, then it might be Marco Kasper for 20. Then it will be Kopp for 5. Like, it's going to be whatever works at that time. But my expectation of JVR is to be on the third line and help score goals. Anything more than that, this is where I struggle. This is where I struggle, Scotty. Because if he plays top line left wing, I don't know if that's him exceeding expectations or just that's how poor the depth is, that's how thin the depth is. Like, if he's effective on the top line, then yeah, he's exceeding my expectations. But if he's up there for lack of better options, I don't know if that's exceeding my expectations. I think that's just a rock and a hard place type spot. So, I'm not going to bemoan if at the end of the season JVR plays 55 games on the top line left wing and he doesn't play great there. I'm not going to say he failed my expectations because he shouldn't have been placed in that position to begin with. My expectation of him is power play 2, third line left wing, fourth line left wing, whatever you want to organize the bottom 6, but he's going to be a net front presence to score goals. That's all it should be. He's JVR in 2025.
We hope.
Close the book. All right, Scotty, let's head to segment 3. We'll talk about Elmer Soderblom, another one of those top line left wing options. I think probably one of the more exciting options as he's young. And how many more surprises does Elmer Soderblom have in store for Detroit Red Wings fans? Stay tuned. Segment 3 coming up. Scotty loves how silly I am. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bet now, because Futures Day is just one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. One more thing about JVR before we move on. Talking about a guy, a forward who you expect some production from. How many points, let's say, would you think is a fair expectation to put on him? He had 16 goals, 20 assists for 36 points last year. Do you think that is a fair... I think anything north of 30 for a 36-year-old, points-wise, is probably fine. If he dips to 32 points,
yeah,
I think that's fine.
I don't even... like again, I'm obviously you're hoping just for production in the bottom six from him, but dude, if we get a 15-15 or a 15-20 out of him, like yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's like 12-18, 12-19, 12-20, like yeah, whatever. If it's north of 30 from a 36-year-old playing in bottom six, that's incredible production.
Yeah.
We'll take that. All right, Scotty, who's a half point per game, by the way, because he only played 71 last year. So 36 points in 71 games is actually better. So that would have been a 41 point pace across 82. You know I love my prorations. All right, Elmer Soderblom came up, 2/3 of the way through the season last year. We thought he was going to just be up for injury purposes, and then he played his way to sticking on the team. Didn't play enough games to qualify him for, evolving hockey rankings, because I love that. But we can use the eye test to know that he was pretty dang effective in his time here. Played in the bottom six role, sometimes middle six role too. And in that span, he had himself some nice production, more than we probably expected, as I'm trying to pull it up very sneakily here because I didn't have it ready. My B. He had in 26 games played, he had 4 goals, 7 assists for 11 points, 0.42 points per game. And it was more beyond the goal scoring, because there was a lot of long stretches there, Scotty, where we saw Elmer Soderblom playing this game of hockey with the Detroit Red Wings, and we thought the goals are going to come. He kept putting himself in situations where he could scoring chances, and it felt like he was so close, just constantly being noticeable in the offensive zone. And then he finally kind of did. It took several games, and he got those 11 points. The question becomes can he surprise us again with that level of production across 82 games? Because 0.42 points per game, that puts him around 82 games, like 30 points, 35 points. If he's playing a bottom six role, is that what we should expect of him?
Yeah, I guess I'll say I have pretty high expectations for him this year. It's so interesting because this is the first year that he's ever gone into a season expected to make the roster and produce, right? Like this is the first time that's ever been a thing for him at the NHL level. And so I think that it's important to remember that it's his first full season. Like there will be nebs and flows. There will probably be hot stretches and cold stretches and whatnot. And we'll see how he handles the full season throughout. But yeah, man, I'm really excited about Elmer just because I think that there are intangibles that really only Elmer can do because of his size and position, right? There are things that Elmer does on the ice that you really can't teach and that other people, normal quote unquote people, like can't pull off. And so I think that I am really excited about it. I don't think that the ceiling for Soderblom is, being a solidified top line winger or anything like that. But I do think that he can be an incredibly valuable all situations middle six forward. And if he turns into that, over 82 games this year, then that's a massive win for this organization. Again, we have to remember that a year ago at this time, late August, even a year ago, we were talking about Soderblom. Well, we weren't talking about Soderblom. Soderblom was in the category or the group of, flash out, maybe not even going to be NHL hockey players. And he had such a breakthrough last year that we are now expecting him to produce up here. So yeah, I'm really excited about him. I don't think that he's, necessarily we should pencil him in to be the guaranteed solution of top line wing, but he's certainly going to be an option, and he certainly brings stuff to the table that really nobody else can offer. So I'm excited about the season, no matter where he falls into the lineup card.
Right, and like the reason why he saw success where he didn't see success earlier is because of the fact that he became more willing to finish his checks, compete on the
use the
forecheck.
body,
Stopped relying so much on his pure size and length and actually moved his feet. And it's like, whoa, wouldn't you guess when you then combine that
and just
with
balance.
skating your face?
Right.
Yeah.
Like he's not used to the talent at the high level can really just knock center of gravity.
He relied a
off your
lot on
skate.
his stick handling to get by and his pure length. And like you said, got to the NHL and guys are a lot stronger, could knock him off his stride. And he was pretty easy to knock off the puck. Not as easy anymore. I expect more of that. I expect that type of tenacity to continue this season. And if he does, I expect him to be, like you said, a impactful middle, bottom six forward. I do think he's probably your biggest wild card for the top line left wing role.
Sure.
Like we have I expect Casper to take a step forward this season, but I would also slot Casper in as your 2C. We know what Kopp is. We know what Comfer is. Like Soderblom has probably, we talk about ceilings a lot, right? Your highest ceiling out of anyone who could play top line left wing because he has the most still left to show. He's the biggest unknown.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not necessarily about ceiling. It's about just the fact that we haven't seen everything out of him yet. So you're kind of hoping he's that diamond in the rough that can go up there on the top six and get a boost in scoring and production by playing with Larkin and Raymond. And I think there is an opportunity for him to do that. And that would be great. But I also would think it's foolish to expect that out of him. He's definitely going to get looks. And I'm not saying you are. I'm more talking to I'm talking to people when I say that.
The powers that be. I think that it is. I think you're exactly right. And I think that it would be unfair to just have expectations skyrocket because of last season. But I also think that if he were to revert back to where he was, a year ago at this time in terms of production, that would also be a disappointment. And obviously there's the possibility of anything in between those two extremes. So yeah, I think that calling him the biggest wild card in the forward group is probably accurate. Lowest floor and a high ceiling. So I think that there's a lot of possibilities for his production if he can just be what he was at the end of last season, but over 82. That's a massive win. That's a pretty darn productive season, to be honest.
That gives you 35 points from Elmer Soderblom. That if he's playing a bulk bottom six role, 35 points is a very impressive season. So
in an all situations guy, right? Somebody that there's room for him on the kill if need be, but there's certainly room for him as kind of a net front even on the power play if you desperately need it. He can be, theory, I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying you can deploy him in the offensive and defensive zone. Like you can really use him whenever you want.
He's not a very strong defensive forward, but he could be with that length if he put his mind to it, I feel. He's not the fastest skater in the world, but you put him in the defensive zone on the PK. If he commits to learning that,
not a defensive. Again, I'm not trying to make it sound like he's going to win any awards anytime soon. I'm just saying that he's a guy that you don't have to. You're not giving him the Gostisbehere or Patrick Kane treatment where it's like you will only play in the offensive zone and that is it either. Like you have a little bit of wiggle room there. So
with his size and his puck handling abilities, net front power play. Elmer Soderblom could be dangerous. Sure. And we've seen a little bit of that on the international stage.
Year,
So, Elmer Soderblom is going to be a really fun player to watch because he took some huge strides last year, and he's still young enough that he could continue to take more strides and surprises. Hopefully he does, because this team needs internal growth. Scotty, on the other side of prospect land, Red Savage, whose rights expired on Friday, has signed a 2-year deal with the Rochester Americans of the AHL. So just a quick congratulations to Red Savage for turning pro. No longer in the Red Wings organization, so probably the last time we'll talk about him. But just congratulations to friend of the show, Red Savage, for turning pro and playing with the Rochester Americans.
Friend of the program turned pro. We make professional hockey players. That's really what it comes down to. But seriously, congrats to him. Awesome fan favorite. Certainly at Michigan State, it was a big fan favorite as well. So.
Absolutely. All right, Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode on Monday. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.